What if the most handsome man in Hollywood once wore a chicken costume just to survive? He had money, fame, and love, but secretly battled depression, addiction, and heartbreak. Could you survive that kind of life? This isn't just a celebrity story. It's a raw, honest journey of falling apart and finding yourself again. And along the way, you will learn English through real emotions and powerful language. Welcome to a story that will do more than entertain you. It will teach you, move you, and help you grow. Yes, it's about Brad Pitt, but it's also about you. About rejection, fame, heartbreak, inner battles, and the power of change. This is not just a Hollywood story. This is a human story. One that shows how to keep going when the world turns cold, how to stand tall when your heart is breaking, and how to rise again and again, even when life is brutally unfair. And while you listen, you'll be learning real English, naturally, emotionally, and deeply. So make sure you stay till the end, because this might just be the most meaningful English lesson of your life. Are you ready? Let's begin. Brad Pitt was born on December 18th, 1963, in Shawnee, Oklahoma, but he didn't stay there long. He grew up in Springfield, Missouri, a quiet, conservative town where most people lived ordinary lives. His full name was William Bradley Pitt, but everyone simply called him Brad. From the outside, Brad's life seemed picture perfect. He came from a good family, church-going, polite, well-mannered. He had a warm smile that made neighbors say, "That's a good kid." But behind the smile was something more, something hidden. Brad's father, William Pitt, ran a trucking company. He was known for being strict, demanding, and emotionally distant. Brad once admitted, "My dad taught me to be strong and to never show weakness." His mother, Jane, was the opposite, kind, supportive, and gentle. She worked as a school counselor and was Brad's emotional anchor. Brad had a younger brother, Doug, and a sister, Julie. Their home was quiet. Not much hugging, not many open conversations. Brad learned from an early age to keep his feelings inside, to smile on the outside and stay silent on the inside. Interestingly, Brad didn't grow up dreaming of red carpets or Hollywood fame. In fact, he studied journalism at the University of Missouri. He was smart, focused, and responsible. His plan was to work in advertising, but deep down, something didn't feel right. Every evening after classes, Brad would escape into movies. He would turn off the lights, sit alone, and disappear into the world of storytelling. Films weren't just entertainment for him. They were therapy. They made him feel things he couldn't express in real life. But in a town like Springfield, saying, "I want to be an actor," felt like saying, "I want to live on the moon." So he kept his dream hidden, even from his closest friends. Then, 2 weeks before graduation, Brad made a life-changing decision. He dropped out of college. No degree, no backup plan, just one wild goal: Hollywood. He packed his car, took 325, and drove all the way to Los Angeles, chasing a dream he couldn't ignore any longer. To his parents, he said he was going to study at an art school in California. But that was just a cover story. The truth, he wanted to act, to risk everything for a shot at becoming someone else on screen. It was a secret so deep that even he wasn't sure he believed in it yet. But Hollywood was not waiting to welcome him. He moved into a small, cheap apartment with barely enough money to survive. To pay rent, Brad took on the most random jobs, delivering refrigerators, handing out flyers on the street, driving exotic dancers to parties, and yes, even wearing a giant chicken costume outside a fast food restaurant. Imagine that. Hollywood's future superstar, sweating in a bird suit just to make ends meet. Still, Brad kept showing up at auditions. Every day he stood in long lines, hoping for a miracle. But all he heard was rejection. "You're not good enough. You're just a pretty face." The doors slammed again and again, but Brad didn't quit. He enrolled in acting classes and found a coach who saw something in him. Not just good looks, but raw potential. Someone who could go beyond the surface and bring real emotion to the screen. Brad began to understand that acting wasn't about pretending. It was about breaking open, about feeling, about becoming. But the early years were lonely. Far from home, no real friends, no success. He went to parties just to forget how empty he felt. In Hollywood, drugs were everywhere. And Brad, young, unsure, and vulnerable, got pulled in. He later admitted, "I wasted a lot of time trying to escape." Even in his darkest moments, he never stopped chasing the dream. Something inside him whispered, "Keep going." And one day, it finally paid off. In 1991, Brad landed a small role in the movie Thelma and Louise. He was on screen for just 7 minutes. But those 7 minutes changed everything. His charm, his voice, his presence, it was electric. Suddenly, people started asking, "Who is that guy?" From chicken suit to movie screens, from rejection to recognition, the journey had only just begun. After his brief but unforgettable appearance in Thelma and Louise in 1991, Brad Pitt's phone started ringing. Hollywood had taken notice. "He's not just a pretty face," people whispered. "There's something there." But Brad knew better than to believe the hype. He had learned the hard way that fame is fragile. 7 minutes of screen time could open a door, but it couldn't keep it open. So Brad made a bold choice. Instead of jumping into shallow romantic comedies that would cash in on his looks, he chose roles with depth. Films that explored pain, identity, family, and fear. He wanted to be taken seriously, not just adored. In 1992, he starred in A River Runs Through It, a quiet film about two brothers, life's regrets, and nature's power. Brad's performance was subtle, emotional, and sincere. Audiences began to see a new side of him, not just handsome, but human. But fame didn't wait. It came fast, too fast. Paparazzi followed him everywhere. He couldn't walk down a street without cameras flashing. He was named People magazine's sexiest man alive in both 1995 and 2000. The world loved his face, his hair, his abs, but almost no one asked how he was doing. Brad once described fame like this: "It's a monster. It looks beautiful, but it eats you slowly." Underneath the surface, he was struggling. Too much attention, too little peace. To escape the constant noise, he turned to marijuana. It wasn't addiction, he said. It was avoidance. He was using the silence of smoke to drown the pressure in his mind. In 1994, Legends of the Fall hit theaters. Brad played Tristan Ludlow, a wild, broken man caught in the chaos of love and war. Women swooned. Men admired him. Hollywood finally admitted, this guy isn't just a face, he's a force. Then came Seven in 1995, a dark thriller co-starring Morgan Freeman. Brad played a young detective chasing a brutal serial killer. The film's unforgettable ending, "What's in the box?" cemented his place in cinema history. But while his career soared, Brad's personal life became tabloid gold. In 1994, he began dating Gwyneth Paltrow. They were young, beautiful, successful, Hollywood's golden couple. They got engaged. Everyone thought they'd last forever. But the reality was different. Brad wanted peace. Gwyneth wanted adventure. Their relationship crumbled in 1997. Years later, Brad admitted, "I wasn't ready. I ruined it." In 1999, Brad took on one of his most iconic roles, Tyler Durden in Fight Club, a violent, charismatic rebel who challenged everything fake in modern life. Brad trained for months. No sugar, no comfort, just raw discipline. He didn't just play Tyler. He became him. At first, the film flopped. Audiences didn't know what to make of it. But over time, Fight Club became a cult classic. Brad's performance was magnetic, dangerous, unforgettable. He became a symbol, not just of beauty, but of rebellion, of resistance, of truth. In 2000, he married Jennifer Aniston, TV's beloved star from Friends. Their wedding was a fairy tale, fireworks, lights, joy. But behind the scenes, things were more complicated. Brad was chasing serious films. Jennifer wanted a family. Their paths were beginning to split. Hen came Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2004. On set, Brad met Angelina Jolie. Their chemistry was undeniable, both on screen and off. Rumors exploded. By 2005, Brad and Jennifer divorced. The world picked sides, Team Jen or Team Angie. Brad was praised, judged, attacked. But through it all, he sat silent. He didn't defend himself in interviews. He didn't fight back in headlines. He let the world talk while he focused on something new, fatherhood. With Angelina, Brad's life transformed. They adopted children from Cambodia, Ethiopia, and Vietnam. They had biological children too. Soon, Brad was the father of 6. "For the first time," he said, "I felt like a man." He also became a humanitarian. He helped rebuild New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina. He funded hospitals. He traveled to war zones with Angelina. But fame never let them rest. Their love story was global news. Every step, every fight, every moment, under a microscope. In 2016, Brad and Angelina separated. The media storm returned. Reports of alcohol, arguments, even child welfare investigations filled the headlines. Brad didn't deny the pain. He admitted it. "I was drinking too much. I hurt people I love. I had to change." He entered therapy. He gave up alcohol. He focused on healing for himself and for his children. In 2019, Brad starred alongside Leonardo DiCaprio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He played a quiet stuntman, a loyal friend, calm but strong. The role fit him perfectly. He won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor. Holding the golden statue, he looked into the crowd and said, "This is for my kids. You color everything I do." But behind the smile was still a man in recovery. Because no matter how many awards you win, pain doesn't disappear. It hides. In silence, in shadows, in the spaces between your words. After the pain of his public divorce and the media chaos that followed, Brad Pitt reached a breaking point. The man once called the sexiest alive now faced his most difficult role, being honest with himself. He admitted publicly, "I had taken things as far as I could take them, so I removed my drinking privileges." That one sentence said everything. Brad had lost control. Not every day, but often enough to cause damage. To himself, to his family. Enough to scare him. Enough to make him finally stop running. Brad began therapy. Real therapy. The kind where you don't pretend, don't perform, don't smile for cameras. The kind where you sit in silence and face the pain. And he didn't hide from the public. Instead, He opened up. He said something most men in his position would never say. I was depressed. For years. I was floating through life, numb. I looked fine, smiled in interviews, made millions. But inside, I felt empty. That emptiness had been there for a long time. He realized his pain wasn't new. It went all the way back to his childhood, the pressure to be strong, the silence at home, the need to be perfect. He had spent his entire life trying to please others, his father, Hollywood, fans, but he had never learned to be emotionally connected to himself or anyone else. So he began again, slowly, piece by piece. First, he quit alcohol. Then, he stopped chasing attention. No more loud parties, no wild nights. Brad Pitt, the movie star, disappeared. In his place, a quiet artist began to emerge. He started sculpting metal in his garage. Yes, sculpting. For hours at a time, Brad worked with his hands, shaping silence into something real. He said, I needed silence. I needed peace. He found both in art, pottery, architecture, design. These weren't hobbies. They were healing. No cameras, no scripts, just creation and stillness. And for the first time, Brad didn't feel the need to be anyone. He could just be. He also began listening more, really listening. The best thing an actor can do, and he said, is to listen, not just to lines, but to life. He applied that lesson to everything, especially fatherhood. Brad has 6 children, Maddox, Pax, Zahara, Shiloh, and twins Knox and Vivian. 3 adopted, 3 biological, but all loved deeply. He admits now that he wasn't always present. He missed birthdays. He avoided emotions. There were fights, court battles, pain he caused and pain he received. But he's not hiding from it. I wasn't emotionally available when they were young, he confessed. But I'm trying now. Every single day, I'm rebuilding those bridges because my kids are watching, and I want them to see what healing looks like. In his 50s, Brad became more reflective. Not religious in the traditional sense, but deeply spiritual. He reads philosophy. He listens to opera. He surrounds himself with artists, thinkers, people who don't care about fame. One of his closest friends is director David Fincher, who said, Brad is misunderstood. He's not flashy. He's deep. He's kind. He's always growing. Another important friendship is with actor Bradley Cooper, someone who helped Brad get sober. At the National Board of Review Awards, Brad looked at him and said, I got sober because of this guy, and every day since has been happier. And while Brad has continued acting, his true impact might be behind the scenes. His production company, Plan B Entertainment, has become one of Hollywood's most respected. Films like 12 Years a Slave, The Big Short, Moonlight, and Minery all came from his team. These weren't just box office hits. They were stories that mattered, stories that gave voice to those often ignored. But not everything was perfect. Some movies failed, some ideas didn't work, some relationships still hurt. One of the biggest conflicts between Brad and Angelina came years after their separation, their vineyard, Chateau Miraval. It was the place they married, their dream home. But in 2021, Angelina sold her share without Brad's approval to a Russian billionaire. Brad filed a lawsuit. This wasn't just a business deal, he said. This was our home, our legacy. Now, the vineyard is a battlefield, a symbol of both love and loss. Yet through it all, Brad doesn't carry anger. At 60, he's calmer, softer, still. He wears loose linenous clothes, attends art shows, rides electric bikes. He's often seen alone, reading, drawing, or simply observing. He no longer cares about controlling his public image. He lets people think what they want. Because finally, he knows who he is. He said, "I'm not chasing anything anymore. I'm just living." After years of running, chasing, falling, and rising, Brad Pitt now stands in a place few ever reach. Not just fame, not just fortune, but clarity. He lives mostly alone, but not in sadness. His life today is quiet, intentional, almost monastic. He wakes up early, around 6:30 a.m., no phone in hand, no buzzing notifications, just stillness. He stretches, drinks water, walks barefoot in his garden. Black coffee, no sugar. Then he reads. Philosophy, poetry, anything that feeds the soul. His days are structured, but flexible. He spends time on production meetings, reads scripts, sculpts, or visits art studios. Sometimes he plays the guitar. Sometimes he writes. His meals are clean, often plant-based, simple, nourishing. He exercises with calm discipline, body weight workouts, solo bike rides, time with his dog. No cameras, no chaos, just rhythm and peace. Evenings are slow. He watches foreign films, listens to classical music, sometimes shares tea with a close friend. No social media, no wild events. He's usually asleep by 10 p.m. His life isn't about being a superstar. It's about being whole. Brad Pitt has made peace with time. He no longer chases youth. At the Cannes Film Festival, he once wore a skirt, not for shock value, but as a statement. I don't care about looking young. I care about being real. In photo shoots, he mixes elegance with rebellion, soft colors, sharp angles, grace with grit. He embraces age as a gift, not a problem. And he's still working. Some of his most notable recent films include Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, 2019, Oscar winner, a reflection on fading fame and friendship, Ad Astra, 2019, a deep emotional sci-fi exploring father-son trauma and isolation, Bullet Train, 2022, fast, fun, and stylish. Brad plays a tired assassin questioning life, Babylon, 2022, a bold, chaotic journey into old Hollywood filled with excess and art. But more importantly, Brad is producing stories that matter. Through Plan B Entertainment, he's supporting new filmmakers, especially voices that are underrepresented. He wants cinema to grow, to evolve, to mean something beyond box office numbers. He's also more financially stable than ever. With a net worth estimated over $400 million, Brad owns several homes, a $40 million estate in Los Feliz, California, filled with art, music rooms, and private gardens. Chateau Miraval in France, a vineyard still in legal battle, once a dream, now a wound, a beach house in Santa Barbara, a quiet place by the ocean, a mid-century modern mansion in Carmel, one of the most expensive homes in the area. He doesn't collect luxury to impress. He collects spaces that reflect his soul. Even his cars and bikes, custom Ducatis, vintage classics, a Tesla, even a private jet, aren't for show. They're part of the life he's built. Quiet, curious, free. But perhaps Brad's greatest legacy isn't in films, awards, or money. It's in something simpler and harder, honesty. Few celebrities are willing to admit what Brad has. I drank too much. I hurt people I loved. I wasn't a good father. I was lost. But I wanted to change, so I did. That takes courage. In a world obsessed with image, he showed vulnerability. In a culture that rewards perfection, he embraced growth. That's why people respect him, not just because he's talented or beautiful, but because he's brave enough to be real. Brad once wore a chicken costume to survive. Today, he wears something far more powerful, quiet dignity. He proved that you can fall, break, fail, and still come back stronger. That you can lose yourself and still find your way. That fame without soul is empty. That peace is a choice, not a prize. And most of all, that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be. Brad Pitt's story is not just the journey of a celebrity. It's a mirror, a reflection of our own struggles, fears, and potential. Behind the magazine covers and movie screens was a man searching for meaning, a man who wore masks, not for roles, but for survival. He had it all. Beauty, fame, success, and yet he still felt lost. But here's what he taught us. 1. It's okay to fall. Everyone makes mistakes. Everyone feels pain. What matters is whether you get back up. 2. You don't have to be perfect to be powerful. Brad was flawed. He drank too much. He ran away from emotions, but he owned his truth, and that gave him strength. 3. Success without peace is just noise. You can have millions, applause, and red carpets, and still feel empty. True success is finding your calm, your center, your purpose. 4. Healing takes time, but it's never too late. Brad didn't start healing until his 50s, and that's okay. You can start now, right where you are. 5. Being real is the most powerful choice you'll ever make, not just in Hollywood, but in life. Be honest, with yourself, with others. That's how healing begins. So, if you're listening to this story and feeling tired, broken, or uncertain about your future, remember, Brad Pitt was once in a chicken costume, delivering flyers, heartbroken, judged, misunderstood. And yet, he didn't give up. And neither should you. Because you are not your past. You are your next decision. This isn't just Brad's story. It's a story about you. About what's possible when you stop pretending and start becoming. So start again. Forgive yourself. Be gentle. Be real. And above all, keep going. Because one day, someone will hear your story and say, if they could survive that, maybe I can too. Thank you for learning with us today on English Journey. If this story moved your heart or helped your English, we'd love to hear from you. Like, comment, and subscribe for more inspiring stories told in simple, real English. This channel is here for you. Every word, every story, every step of the way. Until next time, keep learning, keep healing, and never forget, your story matters. See you in the next video.